So when Santa Anna surrendered to Sam Houston when we fought with Mexico over Texas, they had agreed that everything up to the Rio Grande River was going to be ours. Later, what happened is they had changed their mind and they said the boundary wasn't the Rio Grande River, it was the Nueces River, which gave us far less territory. It basically cut Texas in half. So the people living in Texas would not accept this new boundary. They felt like they were getting cheated. It felt like, they were losing half of their property. That would be like if you came into class and I offer to buy you guys all Big Macs for lunch one day, and I put the Big Mac on your desk, say this is all yours, but when you open it up, you realize half a bite's been taken out of it, or a big bite's been taken. I've taken something that you thought was yours. The Republic of Texas became part of the United States in 1845. It was the 28th state to join the Union, and slavery was allowed in Texas. And America is changing. Many people are against slavery, and they do not want Texas to join the country because they're afraid it's going to give the slave states more power. So President Polk was eager to settle this dispute with Mexico, and he wanted to see at the same time if Mexico would sell California to us. He knows that Mexico is struggling, so he makes them an offer. He sends a guy named John Slidell to Mexico and offers them up to $25 million to purchase California. So what happens? We send this guy there to try to negotiate for California, and the Mexican officials refuse to even talk with him or speak with him at all. So President Polk sees this as an insult. He sent a guy there to try to work out a deal, and they refuse to even talk with him. So what happens is President Polk orders Zachary Taylor to take his soldiers and basically park them right next to the Mexican army. What we were doing here was basically trying to bait them into starting something. So we parked our soldiers right next to their border. Eventually, the Mexican army ended up attacking us. Once they attacked us, we used that as an excuse to declare war on them and fight a battle. So that would be similar, like if there's someone who you really don't like in class, but you don't want to start the fight. But if you sit next to them every single day in class and just say little tiny things, you might be trying to get them to throw the first punch so you can protect yourself. So President Polk takes this time when he sees we're fighting with Mexico, and he says, you know what? Let's send some soldiers to California too. So he sends some soldiers into California to try to take that as well. He says if we're going to fight a war, we're going to get everything we want out of it. So in 1847, Winfield Scott led a charge on Mexico City, and Scott was an expert at preparing for battle. He was known for his attention to detail. He got the nickname Old Fuss and Feathers because he was, kind of annoying with how focused he was on preparation and details. He would take so much time to work on focusing and making sure everything was prepared. So we capture Mexico City, and after we capture Mexico City, the Mexican government and the Mexican soldiers basically resign and they, surrender. So Mexico now has a new government, and President Polk sends a guy named Nicholas Trist to negotiate a treaty. In 1848, they write something called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And when that treaty was presented to Congress, Congress is going to sign it because it's a pretty good deal for us. Mexico is going to turn over all of California and everything between California and Texas. So basically, it gives us back what was ours of Texas and gives us California and everything in the area between there. And we agreed to compensate Mexico about $15 million for the land. Check 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we talked about President Polk, James K. Polk, and his main goal was to expand the country. Remember that word from the last lesson, manifest destiny. He also wants to do a couple other things. He wants to acquire California from Mexico. So we've already fought and got Texas from Mexico, but he wants to get California too. He also wants to lower the tariffs. And during his time as presidency, James Polk accomplishes pretty much everything he sets out to do. So he makes a couple of promises and goals, and he's able to achieve all of them. So President Polk accomplishes everything he promises to do, but he refuses to run for a second term as president. He's only going to be a one-term president. He wants to go out on a good note. So Americans were excited about the new land we got when we defeated Mexico in the battle for Texas. But there was another problem that had come up. The problem was the possible spread of slavery. So if you remember a few chapters ago when we talked about the Louisiana Purchase and the Missouri Compromise, the big concern was adding Missouri would tip the balance of states in favor of the slave states. So they added Missouri and Maine at the same time. And by adding Texas into the country, that same issue is going to come up again. So the Whigs nominate Zachary Taylor for the next election. He was an important war hero. He'd won some major battles in the war with Mexico. And he was from the South, and he was going to get a lot of support from the slave owners. The Democrats nominate a guy named Lewis Cass, and he's from the North, from Michigan. So what happens is some Democrats don't like Lewis Cass, and they break away and form another political party called the Free Soil Party, and they choose Martin Van Buren to be their candidate. So if you guys remember Martin Van Buren, he was vice president for Andrew Jackson, and then he was president for one term, and now they're trying to make him president again. So Zachary Taylor wins the election. The Democrats had lost the popular vote because the Free Soilers, the third party with Martin Van Buren, kind of served as a spoiler for the election. Okay, so the next thing that's going to become a major issue is how did California become so important? For a long time, before California was what it is we know today, a lot of people thought California was kind of worthless. There wasn't a lot of water there. There wasn't a lot of inhabitable area, and it was rough terrain. It was all woods, and it was pretty wild. A guy named John Sutter was one of the first ones to get access to California, and he owned a big chunk of land. He built basically like a rest stop for travelers to use on their way into California. He grew wheat, he grew corn, and he was doing okay. But California was not this bustling city, this bustling state full of people like it is today. So one day, one of the guys who works for John Sutter is down in the river, and he notices something sparkling in the water. He reaches down, and he finds out that it is gold. I don't know why it won't let me highlight the word gold there. Finds this little gold nugget, and he goes back and he shows it to John Sutter and says, "Hey, look what I found." So they decide to keep this gold secret. And the reason why they want to keep it secret is land is super cheap in California. And if they don't let people know that they found gold in the river, they can get all that gold for themselves. Unfortunately, it doesn't stay secret. And what happens, people hear about this gold and they start rushing to California to try to get some for themselves. The people who came to California looking for gold got the nickname 49ers because they came mainly in 1849. And they would come trying to find this gold to get rich because gold is incredibly expensive. A little piece of gold like this could be thousands of dollars. So the population of California is going to skyrocket. The prices of goods are going to change too. And with an increased population, crime is also going to increase. So let me explain why the price is increased. So let's say that I own a store in California and I sell shovels and tools and supplies. If you're coming in to California to try to find gold and you've sold everything you have to make this trip, you want to find gold, you're desperate to find it. If I know you're desperate to find gold and you need my tools, you need my shovels, I can jack the price up as high as I want because I know you are desperate to find the gold. You have no other option. And that's what a lot of merchants did with their products. They jacked the prices as high as they could. So California's population increased from about 15,000 to 100,000. Some people who came there looking for gold struck it rich, but many of them never found enough gold for it to really matter. So California's population had gone up almost 10 times its original number in a little more than a year. cities had sprung up, and it had changed almost overnight. In 1850, California became the 31st state. Okay, guys, so that was a shorter lesson. We're also going to have a video clip today. So I need you to open up Google Classroom, and you are going to do the worksheets for Chapter 13, Lesson 2 and 3.